right, we're live. Welcome to the October 28th, 2024 El Dorado Irrigation District Board Meeting. Roll call, please.
Directors Osborne, Dwyer, and Day present. Directors Veerkamp and Anzini are absent. General Manager Abercrombie, General Counsel Polson, and Clerk to the Board Sullivan present.
All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Second, first.
He's still faster than you. Is there any
Got to
public?
turn the speaker on first.
Yeah. Is there any public comment on the adoption of today's agenda? We'll get to each individual item, but if you want to speak on the adoption of the agenda, please let us know.
If members of the public would like to address the board on the adoption of today's agenda, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2. President Day, it does not appear that any members of the public are wishing to speak on the adoption of today's agenda. Moved by Director Osborne and seconded by Director Dwyer. I believe we're ready for the vote.
All right, please vote.
Division 1 and 2 and 5 voting aye. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Jim, do we have any employee recognition this morning?
None this morning, thank you.
All right, thank you. George, do you have anything? Or excuse
need
me.
to move to
I know I
public
jumped
comment.
ahead. Is there any public comment on EID-related items not on today's agenda?
If members of the public would like to address the board, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Day, it does not appear any members of the public are wishing to speak.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move on. Jim, do you have any further communication?
None today, thank you.
All right, George?
I'm going to save my comments till next meeting, my last meeting, and I want to, if you'll indulge me with about 4 or 5 minutes.
We will.
Okay, thank you.
Pat?
Yes, thank you. I attended the Water Agency's plenary, if that's the right way to say that.
saw that. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it means a love-in. Where they gather all of the interested parties in water on the western slope and in our county. And it was pretty well run. They had a consultant that did a lot of the organizing, and it reminded me of team building things that we've done in the past with breakout sessions and charts on the wall. One of the things that struck me, and John Money was there with me, and thank you for enduring. So they did have one thing that kind of stuck out in my mind was they're trying to look at how do we do landscape-sized projects on the western slope, and what are the barriers? That was one of the questions in the wall chart, and it came up to be pretty much government and money were the barriers to executing our projects. End of report.
Thank you. And the Acorn report is not looking promising. A lot of acorns that are immature and not viable. And so that's, I'm predicting we'll I don't know when we're going to have our next actual water report, but looking to be at best average and probably below average based on the acorns. And then the other thing I want to say is we have 3 of our candidates in here. And first of all, thank you for running, all of you. It's, I know from personal experience, it can be a trial and tribulation to put yourself through that. So thank you to all of you. And also, I know the last week, and especially the last day is the hardest, because you get to a point where you can't do anything else and you just have to wait. And that's hard. So good luck to all of you. And best wishes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
you flatlanders, our acorn crop is alive and well, I wanted to
Well,
tell
maybe
you.
it's going to hit up higher. We're at 1,000 feet. We're not flatlanders. All right. Now we'll move on to the, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on items on today's consent calendar?
If members of the public would like to address the board on the approval of today's consent calendar, please refer to the detailed instructions in today's agenda. President Day does not appear any members of the public are wishing to speak on the approval of today's consent calendar, moved by Director Dwyer and seconded by Director Osborne. I believe we're ready for the vote.
Please vote.
Division 1, 2, and 5, voting aye, motion carries.
All right, now we'll move to information item number 7. Elizabeth?
Hold on for 1 second. The mic is not going on. Hold on.
Good morning, President Day, members of the board. Today, for the board's information, is the annual legislative report, and that will be presented by Mr. Reeb of Reeb Government Relations. They have actively monitored and engaged in lobbying for over 30 legislative bills on behalf of the district this last legislative cycle. And the report included in today's packet provides detail regarding the outcome of those efforts. And Mr. Reeb is here today to provide even more detail regarding the state of things in the legislature. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Reeb.
The next slide. Good morning, board and staff. It's good to be here. Since I won't be here at your next meeting, I did want to ask for the indulgence of the president to thank, as a customer, an El Dorado County resident and a lobbyist, Director Osborne, for his many years of dedicated service to El Dorado County. It's very rare that we see this type of public service and work put in for a lot of years. 24, yeah. We've known each other for, I think, a little over 30 years. So thank you for your service. Even though I don't think you were my director all during the redrawings, but we appreciate your work. So the annual report, this is just kind of a bullet point presentation of what's in there. I'm not going to go through this slide so much. As always, jump in and ask questions if you have any questions, either now or at the end. Next slide. So as you are aware from my prior visits, the state fiscal condition has been a little bit challenging. last couple of fiscal years. And it looks, based on the Department of Finance's most recent fiscal report, that we're going to still be challenged for perhaps another couple of fiscal years. When you look at the preliminary general fund agency cash receipts, they're generally higher than what was anticipated last April of this year. We have sales tax and personal income tax exceeding forecasts. But there's some troubling information in that report. For example, California's unemployment rate's at 5.3%, increased just a little bit, but that's compared to 4.2% nationally. So we're struggling a bit compared to the nation as a whole with respect to the unemployment rate. And then inflation slowing. We're still above the Fed's target 2%, but we're about 2.5% year over year. And when I dove down into a little bit of the more details, our California personal income increased by 6.5% in the second quarter of this year, so that's good. Gains were driven by increases in wages and salaries and property income. We did have an increase of 150,000 jobs in the civilian labor force, so that's good. And I already indicated about our unemployment rate. The housing market is still, as everyone knows, housing affordability is a huge issue. Local races, state races, national races. So we're still lagging behind demand in terms of building new houses. In the year-to-date through August, we permitted 104,000 housing units. Not a lot. That's essentially unchanged for the last 3 consecutive months, but it's down almost 7% compared to last year. And on the flip side of that, because of the supply being a challenge, the statewide median sale price of existing single-family homes, it did drop 2.3%, but we're looking at $868,000 for a median household, or for a median price. And so that's a challenge for the vast majority of families in California. So the Department of Finance is still projecting that we could have budget deficits as much as $30 billion in the next 2 to 3 fiscal years. That's going to continue to put pressure on the legislature and the governor to hold down spending. And we see that when it comes to climate resilience investments in water resources infrastructure. There's still a fairly bold move toward clean energy, renewable energy, electrification of our transit system and things like that. But the water system and the flood control system in California is still overwhelmingly funded by local agencies. And that, of course, is directly reflected in the type of rate increases that you have to contemplate each and every year to try and keep up with not only developing new infrastructure, but repairing and replacing the aging infrastructure. Next slide. Yes, sir.
We've been pushing staff and management to pursue more bonds for many of these projects so that we can reduce the burden on our ratepayers. It sounds like the opportunity for bond funding may be pulling back a bit, especially when we're looking at our water projects. Is that?
You mean like state bonds?
Yes. Yeah, not our own issue bond, no.
And you're referring to grant funding some of our projects.
Correct.
So here, that's a good question, Director Dwyer. We have been working on your behalf to try and secure state general fund appropriations for all the type of infrastructure you're involved in. Where we've seen the most success is in the dam safety program, which the district supported the creation of back in 2022. And this year, we had $100 million out of what we were asking for 2.4 billion statewide, but we got 100 million in the governor's budget and ended up with 50 million, of which 47.5 million is now out on the street for proposal solicitation package. So we've made certain that your staff is aware of the timelines and the eligible projects. But for Silver Lake Dam project, we've been pushing through a coalition of other Association of California Water Agency members to get state funding to help offset that infrastructure replacement. And then in this bond measure, we are also pushing through all three bonds to get a significant amount of funding for dam safety program. And that covers replacement, repairs, improving the release structures and things like that. So this bond does have $480 million for the dam safety program. And this is Proposition 4 that's on the ballot on November the 5th. So that's a very important piece for El Dorado Irrigation District here. This bond was wholly written by the legislature, which is very unusual when it comes to bonds. There's usually a great deal of public input, discussion, and debate, time to vet these measures, and the administration, the executive branch, is always involved in ensuring that its priorities and its language and things are included in the bond. This one, the governor didn't want to participate in the writing of this bond until the state budget was completed. And because the state budget gets completed, around June the 15th to July the 1st, the deadline for putting this measure on the ballot was June the 27th. So it all kind of combined together. And in the end, the legislature produced this bond. It came out Saturday night at 10:30 at night. My phone alerted me that the bond was available. And so Sunday I read through it and let clients know what was in and what was out. It was heard in the Appropriations Committee on Monday, Policy Committee on Monday, the Appropriations Committee on Tuesday, and voted on Wednesday without any possibility of amendments or changes. So there is $3.8 billion for water projects, and the rest is for wildfire and forest resilience is the second largest. Heat mitigation, $1.9 billion for natural lands, parks, and wildlife projects, and those are primarily focused on the state's 30 by 30 initiative that we've talked about in the past, where the state has a goal of conserving 30% of the state lands, small s, land in California, permanently for habitat and climate resilience and things of that nature. There's $1.2 billion for coastal lands, bays, and ocean protection, and some of this is related to anticipated sea level rise. There's not a lot of funding here for actual hardening or infrastructure protect against sea level rise. That's estimated to be between $48 and $64 billion to build walls or managed retreat in some areas. So it's a combination of things, but that's largely kind of punted for the future in this bond. We see $850 million for clean energy projects. That's relatively new when it comes to what I'd call traditionally water resources bonds. And we're seeing a lot of funding in this one for improving our ports, for anticipating offshore wind. And so a lot of funding from this bond will go to that process. It's estimated that the offshore wind that's envisioned for California would require about $700 billion of investment. So it's not a cheap buy, but it's something that this is a first for a California general obligation bond to provide funding for that. And then another newer area that we see is this last bullet, $300 million for agricultural projects. There's really an effort in some portions of the legislature to try and boost family farms and small farms, disadvantaged farmers, social economic disadvantaged farmers as compared to the, the corporate farms in different parts of the state. And so this bond really gets into some support for those small farmers, equipment, expertise, infrastructure, and things like that. Now, these farms aren't going to feed the world like the other farms like down in the San Joaquin Valley, but they're important for local and regional economies. So that's a first in terms of state general obligation bonds. So the last PPIC, Public Policy Institute of California survey I saw, this was earlier in the summer, likely voters were going to vote in favor by 65%, 33 against. There's no real campaign either for or against this, but we're expecting it to pass, so we'll see what happens. But this $10 billion bond will result in annual general fund costs of about $400 million annually over 40 years to repay the bond. They generally go on a 30-year repayment cycle, so that's probably closer to $600 million. When we do these bonds, $10 billion becomes between $16 and $20 billion by the time you pay it off. So it's not the most efficient way to finance infrastructure. Any questions on the bond before we move to the next slide?
Just going back to my old job, what are they proposing to do for wildfire prevention and forest resiliency?
Yeah, there's a lot of, it falls into equipment, helicopters, air tankers, trucks, and things like
Okay.
that.
Rolling stock, basically.
Yes,
Okay.
and funding for forest health, clearing, cutting the understories, fire breaks, and things of that nature. More cameras, more locations, so they can try and catch it early. Things like that,
Thanks, Bob.
primarily, yeah. So as you'll recall from 2023, we had 3 pieces of legislation that really would have significantly changed the manner in which water rights in California are administered and enforced. And El Dorado Irrigation District, along with the broader water community, opposed all 3 initially. As it turns out, SB 389, the bill on the bottom, we in the water community were able to negotiate a compromise with Senator Allen and the proponents of that bill, and EID in the opposition removed that opposition, and Governor Newsom signed into law last fall. This one allows the State Water Resources Control Board to initiate investigations into the exercise of water rights. So if someone is not complying with their terms and conditions in their water rights permit or their riparian diverter, and they're moving that water off of the riparian lands, this bill gives the state board the ability to investigate and require greater information and data from the diverter. It's not really targeted to districts like EID that follow the law and are reporting and consistent with their terms and conditions, but it's important for those who may not be. AB 460, Bauer-Can, was a bill that would give the State Water Resources Control Board significant authority, not only for fines and penalties, but also to put a temporary halt on diversions and then take up to 6 months to determine whether those diversions were consistent with terms and conditions in the water rights permit. So a diverter could lose the entire season of diversion under this bill if the state board exercised the authority that was proposed here. The genesis of this bill was, yes?
Affect not only current water rights, but the senior superior water rights, many of which we hold. And so in theory, that bill could have stopped our diversions for our senior water rights. Is that correct?
That's correct. As introduced, that's correct. And so we as the water community were focused on what was the author's stated purpose for this bill was to create a more of a disincentive against diverters violating curtailment orders. So up in the Shasta River area, back in the drought, Shasta River Water Association, which is a group of cattle ranchers and farmers, ignored a curtailment order and diverted about 4,000 acre-feet of water for their cattle and for some of their crops. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually depleted the river in some cases by 90%. So it results in some fish kills and worsening water quality. The fine for that was about $4,000. So that was the genesis of her bill. In the end, we were able as a water community to focus the bill on increasing those penalties and giving the state board the ability to take action on its own without having to ask the California Attorney General to do so on its behalf. So we shortened the timeline that the state water board or the state, if you will, could respond, and the penalties were increased significantly. So we're hoping that that'll be a deterrent against bad actors. That bill was finally amended this year, this summer, and it got signed into law by Governor Newsom. The final bill, AB 1337, was not, the author determined that she was not going to compromise with opposition. It had been blocked in committee for over a year, and so that one ended up dying in the Senate Natural Resources and Water Committee. And so these three bills were part of 11, again, if you'll recall, like 2 or 3 years ago, may not, but the Planning Conservation League sponsored a document that was written by a professor at Berkeley, a lawyer at UC Davis, and some other folks put together like a water rights rewrite for California that had 11 recommendations. These three were part of that. So we thought this year we were going to see more legislation to try and implement those other 8 recommendations. But that didn't come about. We could still see that next year. So we'll be on the lookout for more water rights type bills. So now we're looking at local legislative delegation. Let me just highlight that the district enjoys a very good relationship with its 3 state legislators, Senator Marie Alvarado Gill, Assemblymember Joe Patterson, and Assemblymember Megan Dally. We're able to meet with the legislators themselves. We have good relationships with their staff. We communicate your position right from the get-go with their offices, even though the bill may still be in the Assembly, for example. We'll let Senator Alvarado Gill know that there's legislation that could be headed to the Senate to give them an early heads up. And quite often, their staff will contact us and say, is El Dorado Irrigation District still supporting or still opposing this bill, particularly Senator Alvarado Gill when it comes to floor votes. So that's great. We couldn't ask for anything more from your local legislators. So Senator Marie Alvarado Gill is in the middle of her 4-year term. She won't be on the ballot this year. Of course, the news here, which is old news by now, is that she switched from Democrat to Republican Party registration. Got stripped of most of her committees, her committee chairmanship. But I have to say that even when she was had a Democrat Party affiliation, she was very good for El Dorado Irrigation District issues, often kind of bucking the Democratic Party recommendation in the Senate to vote consistent with the EID's position. Assemblymember Joe Patterson, he's running for re-election to represent District 5. He's running against the Democrat Neva Parker. She's a nutrition business owner and vice chair of the Roseville Grants Advisory Commission. The district leans Republican. We believe Assemblymember Patterson is likely to retain his seat. Then we have Assemblymember Megan Daly. She's leaving the Assembly to run for Senate District 1, her husband's seat that he's turned out of. She's got 4 more years of eligibility under term limits, so she's going to try and jump to the Senate, so she knocks off that penultimate, election. There's 2 women who are open, running for that open Assembly District 1 seat, Heather Hadwick and Tanessa Audette. So Tanessa Audette is the mayor of Reading, experience in local government, and Heather Hadwick is a safety and communications specialist with the Modoc County Office of Education. So both are far north of El Dorado County. El Dorado County is just kind of like the little tail of this district, mostly Lake Tahoe and maybe even Pollock Pines, piece of Placerville. So that's going to be held again by a Republican member of the Assembly. We just don't know which one. Ms. Hadwick has been endorsed by Assemblymember Daly and Senator Daly. Okay, next slide. So that's it in a nutshell. I think we gave you a 32-page report. I'm sure you enjoyed going through it, nighttime reading, but happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Bob. I tried to do the 32 pages, but I didn't make it all the way. But I do want to say it's probably just as important for us in your actions that you take to help try to influence the bills that would damage EID to get them off of the table. And I think you've done a good job at doing that, and/or modifying them so that the end effect on us and our ratepayers is mitigated. And I think, again, you've done a good job on that. So not only the bills that you support or we support, getting those passed, but also the ones that'll damage our situation. Thanks for getting those suppressed.
Yeah, there's 2 of those quick examples. AB 1284 by Assemblymember Ramos. El Dorado Irrigation District was the first and for a while the only opposition to that bill. It would have really upended the Bay Delta Water Quality Control Plan progress, the Healthy Rivers and Landscapes alternative that the district supports. It would have delayed progress on that by directing the State Water Board to come back, take a timeout, and establish beneficial uses specifically for tribal beneficial uses. Now, EID took an oppose unless amended position, but we produced a full set of amendments that would, in our view, allow the tribe, and it was the Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians was the sponsor, allow the tribe to gain a better position, if you will, a seat at the table with respect to the working of the State Water Board, and to require regional boards to adopt beneficial uses for tribal and cultural uses. We met with the author, we met with the sponsors. There was just no really hand reached back to us to try and work with us on that. And so in the end, we were able to keep that one bottled up in the Assembly Appropriations Committee, so that was huge. Another one that Raquel Ayala Vargas on my staff, who's an attorney, worked on a lot this year was kind of a minor bill in the big scheme of things, but AB 2561 would have really elevated the role of employee associations and public employee unions in regard to staffing and hiring with certain vacancy rates. And when the bill was introduced, for a district like yours, where you have, say, 23 people in your supervisory and management association, if you had 2 vacancies that went more than 6 months, then it triggered a report, an analysis, board hearing, and a lot of work. And Raquel spent probably 4 months working with the Association of Federal, State, County, and Municipal Employees to try and help them achieve what they were trying to achieve, which was big counties like the County of Los Angeles may have 2,500 vacancies that they're trying to fill, but it didn't really work for smaller entities. So we were able to increase that percentage to 20% and to reduce the reporting and the analysis that would be required of the district. So we were the only ones working on that bill. Oftentimes, when you have public employee union sponsored legislation, it's kind of almost a fool's errand to try and, stop it. But in bills like that, we try and achieve a compromise that allows the proponent to achieve what they want without harming local agencies like EID. So that's just a couple examples in the bill report.
I want to thank you for the 20 years. I did read the 32 pages, by the way. But I want to thank you for your service to this district for the last 20 years. You have been a measurable supporter of all of our bills and everything, and our needs of our constituents, our ratepayers, and this staff. And I want to thank you for your service.
Oh, appreciate that. Your staff is amazing to work with, except for Polson. But no, we quite, I mean, we're not experts like your staff is, so we'll often read a piece of legislation and our little spidey senses will go off, and I'll throw it to Elizabeth and she'll kick it to Mr. Perez or, engineering or finance, and we'll get their input, and then we'll take that, bring it to the board. If we don't have time for the board, we'll just ask staff, what should we do? And they'll say, gosh, this is bad, try and kill it or fix it. And so we'll go do that. But your staff has been invaluable to the success that we've had.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment on this information item?
If members of the public would like to address the board, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Day, it does not appear any members of the public are wishing to speak on information item number 7. Believe we're ready for the next item.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to action item number 8.
Good morning, President Day and members of the board. My name is Sarah Kaysen, and I'm the Finance and Accounting Manager here at EID. I'm here today to talk about a professional auditing services contract for the next 3 fiscal years, 24, 25, and 26. So for previous board actions, the board policy related to annual audits was adopted in 2006. In 2017, the board policy was revised to clarify that contract terms should not exceed 3 years, with an option to extend 1 additional year only under extenuating circumstances. In 2021, the board awarded the district's previous 3-year contract to Mays and Associates. Summary of the issue. The State Controller's Office requires government agencies to undergo periodic external financial reviews, and the previous 3-year contract with Mays and Associates expired with the conclusion of the 2023 fiscal year audit. Staff analysis. On September 18th, staff issued a request for proposal, or RFP, to seek qualified certified public accountant firms, or CPA firms. Service requirements included in the RFP were audit of the basic financial statements, memorandum on internal controls, single audit if applicable, GAN appropriations limit calculation, presentation to the board to discuss audit results, and then printing and binding of the annual comprehensive financial report, or ACFR. So first, staff determined criteria to evaluate and score proposals. This criteria includes responsiveness to the RFP, audit approach, including strategy, deliverables, partner involvement, and billable hours. The project team's education, professional qualifications, and licensures, industry experience, and cost of services. So the district received 7 proposals. 3 proposals did not satisfy some of the requirements included in the RFP, and so those proposals were deemed non-responsive and were eliminated from contention. The evaluation team reviewed the remaining 4 proposals and scored them based on the scoring criteria I described in the previous slide. So for the proposal selection, the evaluation team is recommending the selection of Badawi and Associates. While they are not the lowest cost proposal, they do provide the best value to the district based on their industry experience, active partner involvement, strong professionally licensed team, and a desired audit approach. Badawi and Associates is a CPA firm located in Berkeley. The firm has over 25 years' experience working with state and local governments. They have a firm policy that requires the engagement partner to be actively involved, and all of their key staff on the engagement team are active CPAs licensed to practice in the state of California. So for funding, the professional auditing services contract cost will be funded from the finance operating budget over the 3-year term. The total contract cost or contract price is $169,952. This includes $154,560 for the required annual financial statements and $15,392 for the preparation of annual single audits, if applicable. A single audit is required for non-federal entities that spend $750,000 or more in federal awards during a fiscal year. The threshold increases to $1 million beginning with the district's 2025 audit year. Yes.
What's our experience with the bids from the auditor in terms of cost adhering to what the bid is? In other contracts, we see escalation in the contract costs by change orders and other things. I know those are construction contracts are way different than a contract for an auditor, but that $56,000, is that going to hold pretty firm, or is there a lot of variance in what we actually?
I think that there's variance. I can't speak to all of the past 3 years, but I think we did have some additional costs. I want to say like $15,000 in additional costs in the prior year due to some of our staff turnover and just some additional help that we needed with doing the audit.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So board options. Option 1, award a contract to Badawi and Associates in the not-to-exceed amount of $169,952 for professional auditing services for fiscal years ending December 31, 2024, 2025, and 2026. And recommendation is option 1.
I just have one question.
Yes.
They're from Riverside. Are they prepared to come up here and,
They're actually out of Berkeley.
what's that?
They're actually out of Berkeley.
I'm sorry?
Berkeley,
Oh,
California.
Berserkly. Okay. Okay.
And we actually have Mr. Badawi here. Yes,
Okay, that,
from Berkeley.
I'll withdraw my comments.
Okay.
I'll move option 1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on action item number 8?
If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 8? If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 8, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. Director Day, it does not appear any members of the public are wishing to speak on action item number 8. Option 1, moved by Director Dwyer and seconded by Director Osborne. I believe we're ready for the vote.
I do want to ask if Mr. Budway would like to address the board, since you drove up here. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that one's fine.
All right.
We're
Well, good
casual
morning.
today.
My name is Ahmed Badawi. I'm the president and founder of Badawi and Associates. Thank you for inviting me to the meeting today. We're definitely excited to have the opportunity to work with the district. I spent my entire career auditing municipalities, about over 25 years, and we currently have over 60 municipalities that we audit. City of Folsom, for example, close by here, is one of our clients, one of our long-term clients. I also wanted to comment on the escalation and changes in the contract. We try to price our contracts that there will be no more changes. We always assume that there will be some new accounting standards every year that we will have, or the district will have to comply with. We also always assume that there will be some challenges and turnover and delays that are already incorporated into our pricing. So short of some extreme circumstances where the district just didn't really do any accounting work and didn't close their books, we don't really anticipate to have any additional cost to our contract.
I've got a question for you on the one-year audit. If we expend federal funds, we do often, right? I mean, or does FEMA funds not count, or?
On the single audit, on the
Yeah.
federal audit of compliance. So this we will only bill it when it's applicable. So if you don't meet the threshold, then obviously we wouldn't conduct the audit and we wouldn't
So
bill.
we're not anticipating necessarily having to do it?
So I don't know what the future funding look
Right.
like.
No, I want you to commit to it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, if it's applicable, we will be happy to do it.
Okay.
If it's not applicable, we will remove that
Right.
part of the cost and not bill for it during
All
that
right.
year.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you for having us, and I'm looking forward to working with the district. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. All right, I believe we are ready for a vote.
In light of the additional comment, did you want to?
Is there any public comment on the comments we just received?
If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 8, option 1, moved by Director Dwyer and seconded by Director Osborne, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Day, there does not appear to be any. I believe we're ready for the vote.
All right, please vote.
Division 1, 2, and 5, voting aye, motion carries.
All right, we'll move to action item number 9.
Good morning, members of the board, public attending here and virtually. My name is Sif. I'm an engineer with the district. I'm new here, been here for 3 months. So the purpose of this agenda item is to seek approval for purchase contract to replace the backwash water return pumps at Res 1 and the project's associated cost. So there are several engineering and operation reasons to replace the backwash water return pumps. First is the pumps are very much near the end of their useful life. These pumps were installed when the treatment went through its original upgrade back in 1989. There have been past failures associated with the pumps, whether the pump itself or appurtenances or components. And because of the age, it's challenging to find the in-kind similar replacement for these pumps. And to provide more background as to why it's critical to for the pump replacement, these pumps serve dual purpose in the overall treatment process.
They remove the backwash water generated during filter backwash, and these same pumps are used to remove solids when the treatment plant goes offline in the winter times. As mentioned, these pumps are beyond their useful life. From 1989 to now, it's been 35 years. Typical mechanical equipment with good maintenance lasts maybe 25 years. So we're already 10 years beyond that point. And we have experienced past failures that led to flooding of residential homes because pump failures. And in terms of failure mode, these pumps are single point failure in terms of filter operation and also overall plant production. There's no bypass or redundancy to the functions that the pumps provide. So here's a bird view of the Res 1 water treatment plant. On the right-hand side, the elongated basin with water, that's the sedimentation basin. And the backwash water return pump station is located above that in the picture, located in the south northwest of the plant. And then on the straight level view on the next slide, you can see the right-hand side is the sedimentation basin, and the backwash water return pumps are located in a vault buried in an embankment. And the left to the vault are the residential homes that have been previously flooded. So when the filter is in backwash, the water enters the vault, and the pumps remove the water from the vault to a nearby tank. These pumps were controlled by the level sensor in the vault, and the vault itself was not designed to provide storage. What that means is the pumps is responsible to remove the water. The vault itself can now contain large quantity of water. And if the pump fails, very quickly the vault will be overflooded, and once the water leaves the vault, it will drain downhill towards the homes. So the recommended fix to this potential issue is to replace in kind. Not only this is the fastest, the easiest way to fix this potential issue, it also aligns well with the future long-term plan for the Rise 1 water treatment plant. Here, I have a table from the 2024 recycled water master plan. And the backwash water return pump station is planned to be removed together with the filter complex rebuild. And that project was designated a priority 3 project under that master plan. And for in the next slide, you can see that all priority 3 water treatment plant projects, the light green bars, they are scheduled to occur after 2040, which is about 15, 16 years from now. So it is unlikely we'll be in a situation where we procure the pumps and we'll only have a few years use out of these because of water treatment plant overhaul project. So a bit more details on the replacing kind. Our consultant engineer, Herbie Engineering, was able to find a manufacturer that accommodate these made-to-order pump requests. They can maximize they can minimize the extra mechanical or electrical work required to replace these old model pumps. The capital cost by engineering cost estimate is about $372,000, and the lead time for the pumps about 32 weeks. The plan is to procure and install these pumps within in-house resources. So a summary for the funding request at this moment, we would like to obtain an approval to single source the procurement contract through Gillick and Mitchell, that's the representative of United Flow Pumps, for about $322,000. Engineering services with Herbie Engineering to gap the concept now and the final shop drawing for about $10,000, and capitalized labor for engineering and operations staff of $40,000. The total funding request is about $372,000, and the approved 2025 CIP budget for this project was about $500,000 a couple of months ago. Would you like me to read? Okay. So option one for this project, for this agenda item, is award a contract to Gillick Mitchell in the not to exceed amount of $322,212 for the purchase of 2 submersible pumps, and authorize additional funding of $9,726 for consultant engineering services and $40,000 for capitalized labor, for a total funding request of $371,938 for the Reservoir 1 water treatment plant backwash water pump replacement project. It's a lot. The recommended option is number 1. Thank you.
Yeah, question?
Nope.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
going to move option 1. I'd like to welcome you to the district. Thank you very much. Nice job. And it's always nice to see projects come in with an estimate that's below what we budgeted in the capital expenditure plan.
Yeah, especially if it's over $100,000. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on action item number 9?
If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 9, please refer to page 2 of today's agenda. President Day, it does not appear any members of the public are wishing to speak on action item number 9. Option 1, moved by Director Dwyer and seconded by Director Osborne. I believe we're ready for the vote.
All right, please vote.
Division 1, 2, and 5, voting aye, motion carries.
All right, thank you. All right, now we'll be moving to 2 closed session items. Counselor, do we have a time estimate?
President Day, yes, the board will be meeting in closed session to discuss the 2 items that have been agendized on today's agenda as closed session items A and B, and I anticipate that the board's consideration of these items will require at least 30 minutes.
All right, so we won't return sooner than 10:30 a.m., although it could be after that. Thank you, everybody.
And this Zoom meeting will be shut down but reopened, not prior to, but could be after 10:30 a.m.
All right, we're back from closed session at 11:22 a.m. Counselor, do we have anything on closed session A?
President Day, the board met in closed session with its labor negotiators. It provided direction but took no reportable action.
All right, and on closed session B, public employment, the board met with the general manager, received information, provided direction, but took no reportable action. And do we have any review of assignments? Nothing?
None today.
Okay, thank you. And so meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
At 11:23
3.
a.m.